Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UCS Horizon, watching the stars drift past through the main viewing window. The ship moved quietly through space, its engines humming softly as they traveled toward the Kepler 442 system. Jake had been in space for 15 years, but he still found peace in watching the endless darkness filled with tiny points of light. "Captain, we are approaching the target zone," said Danny Wright from his position at the navigation controls. Danny was young, maybe 25 years old, with bright eyes that showed his excitement for exploration. This was only his second deep space mission. "Good work, Danny. Take us to a safe distance and begin the survey scan," Jake replied. He turned to look at his small crew. The Horizon was not a big ship, designed for exploration rather than combat. Besides Danny, there was Lisa Park, the chief engineer, and Amy Clark, who handled all communications. Lisa looked up from her computer screen. She was in her 30s, with short black hair and steady hands that could fix anything on the ship. "All systems are running normally, Captain. The new scanning equipment is working perfectly." Amy smiled from her station. She was the youngest of the crew at 23, but she had already proven herself on several missions. Her job was to monitor all radio signals and keep contact with Earth Command. "No unusual communications in this area, sir. Everything seems quiet." Jake nodded and settled into his captain's chair. The Kepler 442 system was supposed to be empty except for a few rocky planets and some asteroids. Earth Command had sent them here to look for mineral deposits that could be useful for future colonies. It was routine work, but Jake knew that. Even routine missions could bring surprises. "Beginning deep space scan now," Danny announced. The ship's powerful sensors reached out into the darkness, looking for anything unusual. The scan would take several hours to complete, mapping every asteroid and piece of space debris in the system. Jake watched the data appear on the main screen. Asteroid formations, small planets, the usual collection of space rocks that made up most star systems. Nothing seemed out of place until Lisa suddenly sat up straight at her station. "Captain, I'm getting something strange here," Lisa said, her voice showing confusion. "There's an energy signature coming from the asteroid belt. It's very weak, but it doesn't match anything natural." Jake moved to stand behind her, looking at the readings on her screen. "What kind of energy signature?" "That's the weird part, sir. It looks like power readings from a ship, but very old and mostly shut down. Whatever it is, it's been there for a long time." Amy turned from her station. "I'm not picking up any radio signals from that area. If it's a ship, it's not trying to communicate." Danny checked his navigation screen. "The signature is coming from grid section 77 Alpha. It's deep in the asteroid field, about 2 million kilometers from our current position." Jake felt his pulse quicken. Finding a derelict ship was always exciting, but it could also be dangerous. "Lisa, can you tell how big this thing is?" Lisa worked at her controls for several minutes, fine-tuning the sensors. "Captain, if these readings are correct, this ship is massive. I mean really massive. It's at least 3 times bigger than our largest battleships back home." "That's impossible," Danny said. "No one builds ships that big. The power requirements alone would be incredible." "The readings don't lie," Lisa replied. "And there's something else. The ship's design. Captain, I'm picking up structural patterns that look human." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Human? Are you sure?" "The metal composition matches our shipbuilding materials. The power signatures are similar to our fusion reactors, just much more advanced. But according to the decay patterns in the energy readings, this ship has been out here for over 200 years. Amy looked confused. "But Captain, humans didn't have space travel 200 years ago. We barely had rockets that could reach our own moon." Jake stared at the sensor readings. Nothing about this made sense. Humans had achieved faster than light. Travel only 80 years ago. The first human colony ships had launched 60 years ago. There was no way a human ship could have been in this system for 2 centuries. "Captain," Lisa said quietly, "I'm reading a ship registry number on the hull. It's faint, but the computer is able to make it out." "What does it say?" Lisa's face went pale. "UCS Defiance, Commission 2156. The bridge fell silent. Jake felt his mouth go dry. The year 2156 was impossible. That was over 200 years ago, when humans were still fighting wars on Earth with primitive weapons. They had no space colonies, no faster-than-light ships, no technology that could build something this massive. "Run the scan again," Jake ordered. "Double-check everything." Lisa worked frantically at her controls. After 10 minutes, she looked up with the same confused expression. "Same results, Captain. The ship is definitely human design, definitely. Ancient, and definitely impossible." Danny spoke up from his station. "Captain, should we report this to Earth Command?" Jake thought for a moment. Standard procedure would be to report any discovery immediately and wait for orders. But something about this situation made him hesitate. If there really was an ancient human ship out there, it could change everything they knew about human history. "Amy, send a message to Earth Command," Jake finally decided. "Tell them we found a derelict vessel of unknown origin and are investigating. Don't mention the human design or the date yet. We need more information first." Amy began typing the message. "How long should we wait for a response, sir?" "At this distance, about 8 hours for the message to reach Earth and 8 hours for a reply. That gives us some time to take a closer look." Lisa looked worried. "Captain, if this ship has been out here for 200 years, it could be dangerous. We don't know what happened to it or why it's here." "That's exactly why we need to investigate," Jake replied. "Danny, plot a course for the asteroid field. Take us in slowly and carefully. Lisa, keep scanning for any signs of life or active weapons systems." As the horizon began moving toward the mysterious ship, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to discover something that would change everything. The idea of an ancient human ship, built with technology that shouldn't exist, waiting in the darkness for over 2 centuries, filled him with both excitement and dread. The ship moved through the asteroid field like a ghost, its hull scarred and battered but still intact. As they got closer, the sensors revealed more details. The ship was indeed massive, bristling with weapon systems that looked far more advanced than anything in the current human fleet. But most unsettling of all, the ship's core systems were still running, protected by some kind of advanced shielding that had kept them functional for 200 years. Jake realized they were not just looking at a piece of ancient technology. They were looking at a mystery that would force humanity to question everything they thought they knew about their own past. The airlock door slid open with a soft hiss, and Jake Morrison stepped onto the ancient ship. The air inside the Defiance was cold and stale, but breathable according to their scanners. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows down the corridors, and Jake could hear the distant hum of machinery that had been running for over 200 years. "Stay close together," Jake said to his team. Lisa Park carried her engineering scanner, while Amy Clark held a portable communication device. Danny Wright had remained on the horizon to monitor their progress and watch for any danger. The corridors were wider than those on modern ships, built for a larger crew. The walls showed signs of battle damage, with scorch marks from energy weapons, and patches where the metal had been repaired in a hurry. Whatever had happened to this ship, it had been through a war. "Captain, these weapon marks don't match anything in our databases," Lisa said, running her scanner over the damaged walls. "The energy patterns are completely different from human or any known alien weapons." Jake nodded, but didn't respond. They had encountered 3 alien species since humans began exploring space, and all of them had been peaceful traders. The idea that this ship had fought unknown enemies was disturbing. They made their way toward the bridge, following signs written in English, but using symbols Jake didn't recognize. The ship's layout was similar to modern vessels, but everything was built on a much larger scale. The ceilings were higher, the corridors wider, and the doors were made of metal that seemed much stronger than current materials. The ship's computer systems are still active, Amy reported, checking her scanner. I'm picking up data flows throughout the ship. Whatever power source this thing uses, it's incredibly efficient. They reached the bridge after 20 minutes of walking. The command center was enormous, with stations for at least 30 crew members. Most of the screens were dark, but several displays still showed system information in languages that looked like a mix of English and something else. Entirely Lisa moved to one of the active computer terminals. Captain, I think I can interface with their system. The basic programming language looks familiar, but it's much more advanced than anything we use. Do it, Jake said. But be careful. We don't know what security systems might still be active. Lisa connected her portable computer to the ship's system. After several minutes of careful work, she managed to access the ship's basic databases. I'm in, Captain. The ship's logs are still intact. The main screen flickered to life, showing the image of a man in his 40s wearing a uniform that looked similar to modern Space Force clothing, but with different insignia. The man had tired eyes and several days of beard growth. When he spoke, his voice was clear, but filled with exhaustion. Captain's log, stardate the 23rd of July 2156. This is Captain Steve Collins of the UCS Defiance. We have been in combat for 6 days, straight against the Vex-High advance fleet. Our mission to stop them from reporting Earth's location back to their homeworld has succeeded, but at a terrible cost. We have lost over half our crew, and the ship is badly damaged. Jake felt his blood run cold. The man on the screen was talking about battles against aliens that history said humans had never encountered. Amy, are you recording this? Yes, sir. Every word. Captain Collins continued his log entry. The Vex-High are unlike anything we expected. Their technology is biological, grown rather than built. Their ships heal themselves, and their weapons adapt to our defenses in real time. We have only survived this long because of the hybrid systems we built using their own technology. Lisa looked confused. Hybrid systems? Captain, I'm scanning the ship's power core, and it's reading energy patterns I've never seen before. It's not just fusion power. There's something else mixed in with it. On the screen, Collins rubbed his face with his hands. Dr. Helen Torres has completed her analysis of the Vex-High technology we recovered. The good news is that we can use it to upgrade our weapons and defenses. The bad news is that prolonged exposure to their technology changes human DNA. We're not the same people we were when we left Earth. Amy stepped closer to the screen. Captain Morrison, he's talking about using alien technology to modify their own ship. That would explain the advanced systems Lisa has been detecting. Collins looked directly into the camera as if he could see them watching. If anyone finds this ship, you need to know the truth. The Vex-High are coming. Not tomorrow, not next year, but sometime in the future. They are preparing a full invasion fleet to wipe out humanity completely. This ship and its crew are all that stands between Earth and total destruction. The log entry ended, and the screen went dark. Jake felt like the air had been sucked out of his lungs. Everything they had been taught about human history was wrong. Humans had encountered hostile aliens over 200 years ago, had fought a secret war, and had won using alien technology. Lisa, can you access more of these logs? Lisa worked at the computer for several minutes. Yes, Captain. There are hundreds of entries from different crew members. It looks like they documented everything that happened during their mission. Pull up the crew roster. I want to know who was on this ship. A screen displayed a list of names and positions. Jake recognized the command structure, but some of the job titles were completely unfamiliar. Chief Medical Officer Helen Torres, Tactical Officer Ben Carter, and Engineer Paul Hughes were listed along with nearly 300 other crew members. "Captain," Amy said quietly, "if these people fought aliens with technology that could change human DNA, what happened to them? Where are they now?" Jake was about to answer when Lisa made a discovery that changed everything. "Captain, I'm reading life signs. Very faint, but definitely there. The ship's medical bay is showing active stasis pods." "Stasis pods?" "Yes, sir. According to these readings, there are still people alive on this ship. They've been in some kind of suspended animation for over 200 years. Jake stared at the readings on Lisa's scanner. The idea that members of the original crew were still alive was almost impossible to believe. But the evidence was right in front of them. "Amy, send an emergency message to Earth Command. Tell them we need a full research team out here immediately. And tell them to send military support." "What should I tell them we found?" Jake looked around the ancient bridge, with its mixture of human and alien technology, its records of impossible battles, and its crew sleeping in stasis for over 2 centuries. "Tell them we found proof that everything we know about human history is wrong. And tell them that the war these people fought might not be over." As Amy began transmitting the message, Jake realized that their simple exploration mission had just uncovered the greatest secret in human history. The Defiance was not just an ancient ship. It was a time capsule, carrying the knowledge and the people who had fought humanity's first war against extinction. And if Captain Collins was right, that war was far from finished. Jake Morrison stood in the medical bay of the Defiance, staring at the 3 stasis pods that showed active life signs. The pods were unlike anything he had ever seen before. They were made of a strange metal that seemed to shift colors in the light, and tubes filled with glowing liquid connected them to the ship's main power system. "Captain, I'm getting a message from Earth Command," Amy Clark said through her communicator. "They're ordering us to leave the ship immediately and wait for a specialized team to arrive." Jake looked at Lisa Park, who was studying the stasis controls. "How long until the Earth team gets here?" "At least 3 weeks, sir," Amy replied. "They're sending their fastest ship, but we're a long way from home." Lisa looked up from the control panel. "Captain, these people have been asleep for over 200 years. If we wait 3 more weeks, their systems might fail. The power readings are getting weaker." Jake felt the weight of the decision pressing down on him. Earth Command wanted them to wait, but the survivors might not have time. He thought about Captain Collins and his warning about the alien invasion. If these people had knowledge that could save humanity, waiting might doom them all. "Lisa, can you safely wake them up?" Lisa studied the controls carefully. "I think so. Sir, the system is designed to be operated by humans. I can see manual override controls here. But Captain, we don't know what condition they'll be in after so long in stasis. We have to try," Jake decided. "Amy, record everything. If something goes wrong, Earth Command needs to know what happened." Lisa began the revival process on the first pod. The machine hummed to life, and the glowing liquid began to drain away. Through the clear cover, they could see a man in his 50s with gray hair and a beard. His chest began to rise and fall as the machine helped him breathe normal. Error again. After 10 minutes, the pod opened with a soft hiss. A man inside coughed and tried to sit up, but his movements were weak and shaky. His eyes opened, and he looked around the medical bay with confusion. "Where, where am I?" The man whispered, his voice rough from centuries of sleep. Jake stepped Forward carefully. You're on your ship, the Defiance. I'm Captain Jake Morrison from the year 2387. You've been in stasis for over 200 years. The man's eyes went wide with shock. He tried to stand, but fell back onto the pod's edge. 200 years? That's impossible. I'm Captain Steve. Collins, what happened to the war? Did we stop the Vexi? Jake felt his heart racing. This was the same Captain Collins from the ship's logs, the man who had led the fight against the alien invaders. Captain Collins, we need to know everything that happened. According to our history books, humans never fought any aliens called the Vexi. Collins looked confused and angry. History books? What are you talking about? The Vexi scout fleet was destroyed, but their main invasion force was still coming. We went into stasis to preserve our knowledge for when they arrived. Lisa had begun reviving the second pod. Inside was a woman with short brown hair who appeared to be in her 40s. When she woke up, she immediately tried to check her medical equipment, even though her hands were shaking. I'm Dr. Helen Torres, she said when she saw the strangers. How long were we asleep? Are the Vexi here? Dr. Torres, this is Captain Morrison, Collins said, his voice getting stronger. He says we've been in stasis for 200 years, and that humans never recorded our war with the Vexi. Dr. Torres looked shocked. 200 years? But that means the invasion fleet should have arrived decades ago. Where are they? Jake didn't know how to answer. If the Vexi had been planning to invade Earth, why hadn't they arrived? Had something stopped them? Or were they still coming? The third pod contained a younger man with black hair and strong hands marked by years of engineering work. When he woke up, he immediately began checking the ship's systems on a nearby control panel. I'm Paul Hughes, Chief Engineer, he said without looking at the others. The ship's hybrid systems are still running, but they're operating at only 60% efficiency. We need to get to the main engineering deck and run full diagnostics. Collins managed to stand up, though he was still unsteady. Paul, these? People say we've been asleep for 2 centuries. They claim humanity has no record of the HFY War. Paul stopped working and turned to face Jake. That's impossible. The war lasted 3 years. We destroyed 17 HFY scout ships and captured their technology. Half the ship's systems are built using their biological components. Dr. Torres was examining her own hands with a medical scanner. Captain Morrison, you need to understand something. The HFY technology didn't just power our ship. It changed us. Our DNA has been altered by exposure to their biological systems. We're not fully human anymore. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What do you mean, not fully human? Our reflexes are faster. Our minds can process information more quickly, and we can interface directly with the ship's biological systems, Collins explained. It was the only way we could match the Vexi in combat. But it means we can never go back to normal human society. Paul was working at the control panel again. Captain Morrison, you need to see this. The ship's long-range sensors are detecting something approaching this system. The energy signatures match Vexi battle cruisers. Jake felt his blood turn to ice. Are you saying they're here now? Dr. Torres looked at her medical readings with growing alarm. Captain, according to our calculations, the main Vexi invasion fleet was supposed to arrive in the late 24th century. If Paul is right about those sensor readings, they're almost exactly on schedule. Collins moved to another control panel, his movements becoming more coordinated as his body adjusted to being awake. How many ships in your fleet, Captain Morrison? Our fleet? Just my ship, the Horizon. We're an exploration vessel with no weapons. The 3 survivors looked at each other with expressions of horror. Collins spoke first. Captain, You need to understand what you're facing. The Vex High don't take prisoners. They don't negotiate. They destroy every trace of life on every planet they encounter. Their invasion fleet contains thousands of ships, each one capable of destroying entire worlds. Paul looked up from his console. Captain Morrison, I'm reading 12 massive bioships entering the outer system, with escort fleets of smaller vessels. The invasion force has arrived. Jake felt the weight of the situation crushing down on him. They had found the survivors of humanity's first war against extinction, only to discover that the enemy was returning in force. His small exploration ship was no match for an alien invasion fleet, and Earth was weeks away from sending help. Doctor Torres stood up, her medical training helping her recover faster than the others. Captain, there's something else you need to know. This ship isn't just a weapon. It's alive. The biological components we took from the Vex High have grown and evolved over the past 2 centuries. The Defiance is now something that exists between human technology and alien biology. Collins moved to the main command console. Captain Morrison, you have a choice to make. You can try to run and warn Earth, knowing that your ship will never outrun the Vex High scouts. Or you can help us wake up this ship and make a stand here, knowing that we might be humanity's only hope of survival. Jake looked at his small crew, and then at the 3 survivors who had been fighting this war for over 200 years. The decision that would determine the fate of humanity was now in his hands. Jake Morrison made his decision in seconds. We fight. Amy, get Danny back here from the horizon immediately. We're going to need every person we can get. Captain Collins nodded with approval. Paul, get to main engineering and start bringing the hybrid systems online. Helen, prepare the medical bay for combat casualties. We're going to war. The ancient crew members moved with purpose, their bodies adapting quickly to being awake after 2 centuries. Jake was amazed at how fast they recovered, but he remembered what Dr. Torres had said about their altered DNA, making them more than human. Within an hour, Danny Wright had docked the horizon with the Defiance and joined them on the massive ship. His eyes were wide as he looked around at the alien human technology that covered every surface. Captain, this ship is incredible, Danny said. The power readings I'm getting are off the charts. It's like the whole vessel is alive. That's because it is alive, Paul Hughes called out from the engineering station. Lisa, come here and help me with these controls. I need someone who understands modern human technology to help bridge the gap between our systems. Lisa Park moved to work alongside Paul. She had never seen anything like the engineering controls on the Defiance. The panels seemed to respond, to touch in ways that felt almost like touching a living creature. Paul, these biological components ... they're warm. And they're growing. The ship has been evolving for 200 years, Paul explained. The Vex High technology we integrated into our systems has been learning and adapting. The Defiance is now something completely new, part human engineering and part alien biology. On the bridge, Captain Collins was teaching Amy Clark how to operate the communication systems. The Vex High don't communicate the way humans do. They share thoughts directly through their biological networks. But we learned to jam their signals. During the war, Dr. Torres was working with Danny to understand the navigation systems. Danny, this ship doesn't move like your modern vessels. The biological components allow us to slide between dimensions, appearing and disappearing in ways that confuse enemy targeting systems. Jake watched his crew work with the survivors, amazed at how quickly they were learning to operate the hybrid technology. But through the main viewing screen, he could see the Vexi fleet getting closer. The alien ships were massive and strange, looking more like living creatures than machines. Captain Collins, how do we fight something that big? Jake asked, pointing at the enemy fleet. Collins studied the tactical display. The Vex High have one weakness. Their biological ships are connected to each other through a network of shared consciousness. If we can disrupt that network, their ships will turn on each other. How do we disrupt it? We have to get close enough to inject a virus into their system. But that means flying directly into the middle of their fleet. Paul's voice came through the communication system from engineering. Captain, the hybrid. Weapons are coming online. We have firepower that can punch through their biological armor, but we only have enough energy for one major assault. Dr. Torres looked up from her medical preparations. There's something else, Captain Morrison. To fully activate the ship's capabilities, we need a human to interface directly with the biological core. It's dangerous. The person who does it might not survive. Jake felt his stomach tighten. What do you mean, interface directly? Collins explained. The ship's central bio-core requires a human consciousness to guide it. During our original mission, I connected with it several times, but only for short periods. A full connection could last hours or even days. Through the viewing screen, they could see the first Vex-High ships beginning their attack on the planets in nearby systems. Massive energy beams reached out from the alien vessels, turning entire worlds into balls of fire. Jake watched in horror as billions of lives were destroyed in minutes. We have to stop them, Jake said, whatever it takes. The Defiance began to move, its hybrid engines creating patterns of energy that Jake had never seen before. The ship seemed to flow rather than fly, moving through space like a living creature swimming through water. All stations report ready, Amy announced from her position at communications. Weapon systems are fully charged, Lisa called out from engineering. Navigation is set for the center of their fleet, Danny added. Captain Collins looked at Jake. Captain Morrison, are you ready to see what this ship can really do? Jake nodded, and Collins placed his hands on a strange organic panel near the captain's chair. The moment he made contact, the entire ship seemed to come alive. Lights pulsed along the walls like a heartbeat, and Jake could feel something that might have been the ship's thoughts touching the edge of his mind. The Defiance moved into the Vex-High fleet like a predator hunting among sheep. The alien ships turned their weapons toward the human vessel, but their energy beams seemed to slide off the ship's biological armor without causing damage. Their weapons can't lock onto us, Collins explained, his voice now carrying a strange echo as if the ship itself was speaking through him. The biological components are confusing their targeting systems. The Defiance fired its first shot, and Jake watched in amazement as the hybrid weapon tore through 3 Vex-High ships at once. The energy beam seemed to be alive, seeking out weak points in the enemy armor and exploiting them with deadly precision. Paul, how are our power levels? Jake called out. Holding steady, but we can't keep this up forever. We need to reach their command ship and inject the virus. The battle became more intense as the Vex-High fleet realized they were facing something they had never encountered before. Hundreds of alien ships surrounded the Defiance, firing everything they had at the human vessel. Dr. Torres monitored the biological systems. Captain, the ship is adapting to their weapons in real time. Every shot they fire makes us stronger. Collins was now fully connected to the ship's biocore. His consciousness merged with the alien-human hybrid systems. I can see their network, he said, his voice distant. Their command ship is at the center of the fleet. If we can reach it, we can end this. Jake realized that they were not just fighting for their own survival. They were fighting for the future of humanity itself. The ancient ship and its hybrid technology represented the only hope of stopping an invasion that would destroy every human world. As the Defiance pushed deeper into the enemy fleet, Jake understood that this battle would determine whether humanity would survive or become another extinct species in the Vex-High's path of destruction. The Defiance pushed through the heart of the Vex-High fleet like a sword cutting through darkness. Captain Collins was now completely connected to the ship's biocore. His human consciousness merged with the alien hybrid systems. His body remained on the bridge, but Jake Morrison could see that Collins was no longer entirely human. "I can feel their thoughts," Collins said, his voice carrying the strange echo of the ship itself. "The Vex-High are afraid. They've never encountered anything like us before." Through the viewing screen, Jake watched as Vex-High ships turned their weapons on each other, confused by the virus that Collins was spreading through their biological network. The alien fleet, which had seemed unstoppable minutes before, was now destroying itself. "Paul, how much power do we have left?" Jake called out to engineering. Paul Hughes answered from deep within the ship's hybrid systems. "We're running on reserves, Captain. The biocore is using everything we have to maintain the connection with Collins and keep the virus spreading." Dr. Helen Torres monitored the medical readouts from her station. "Captain Morrison, Collins' life signs are changing. The interface with the biocore is transforming him at a cellular level. I don't think he can disconnect safely." Jake felt his heart sink. Captain Collins was sacrificing himself to save humanity, becoming something that was no longer human in order to control the ship's incredible power. "There's no other choice," Collins said, somehow hearing their conversation, even though his attention was focused on the battle. "The ship needs a permanent interface to reach its full potential. I'm becoming part of the Defiance, just as it's becoming part of me." Amy Clark looked up from her communication station. "Captain, I'm receiving distress signals from 12 different star systems. The Vex-High ships are attacking each other everywhere, not just here." Lisa Park was working frantically at the engineering controls, alongside Paul. "The virus is spreading through their entire network. Every Vex-High ship in this part of the galaxy is being affected." Jake watched in amazement as the massive alien bioships began to tear each other apart. The Vex-High technology that had made them so dangerous was now turned against them. Their shared consciousness, which had allowed them to coordinate perfect attacks, was now their greatest weakness. "Collins, can you hear me?" Jake called out. "I can hear everything, Captain Morrison," Collins replied, but his voice now sounded like a chorus of different voices speaking together. "The ship and I are one now. We can see across dimensions, feel the thoughts of every living creature within light years." Danny Wright was piloting the Defiance through the chaos of the self-destructing alien fleet. "Captain, some of the Vex-High ships are trying to escape. Should we pursue them?" Collins answered before Jake could respond. "No need, Danny. The virus will follow them wherever they go. Every ship that was connected to their network is now infected. The Vex-High invasion fleet is finished." Dr. Torres continued monitoring the bio readings. "Captain Morrison, the transformation is complete. Collins is now permanently part of the ship's systems. He can't be separated from the biocore without destroying both him and the Defiance." Jake looked at the tactical display, which showed Vex-High ships throughout the local area of space, destroying each other or shutting down completely. The invasion that had threatened to wipe out humanity was over, but the cost had been enormous. "Collins, what happens now?" Jake asked. The ship itself seemed to answer, speaking through Collins' transformed consciousness. "The Vex-High threat is ended here, but there are other fleets in distant parts of the galaxy. The Defiance will hunt them down, one by one, until none remain." Paul emerged from the engineering section, his face showing exhaustion and amazement. "Captain Morrison, the ship is no longer what it was. It's evolved into something completely new, a perfect fusion of human and alien technology guided by human consciousness." Dr. Torres began gathering her medical equipment. "Captain, there's something else you need to know. The exposure to the ship's biological systems has changed all of us. We can't return to normal human society. We're part of the ship now, just like Collins." Jake felt a moment of panic. What do you mean? Our DNA has been altered, Dr. Torres explained. We can interface with the ship's systems in ways that normal humans cannot. We've become something new, something between human and alien. Amy looked at her hands, which now showed faint patterns of light beneath the skin. I can feel the ship's thoughts at the edge of my mind. It's like having a second consciousness. Danny was amazed to discover that he could pilot the Defiance using thought alone. His mind connected directly to the ship's navigation systems. This is incredible. I can see space in ways I never imagined. Lisa found that she could understand and repair the hybrid technology instinctively, as if the knowledge had been programmed directly into her brain. The ship has been teaching us, changing us to be better partners with its systems. Colin's voice filled the bridge, now clearly the voice of the ship itself. Captain Morrison, you have a choice to make. You can return to Earth with your original crew and report what happened here. Or you can stay with the Defiance and help us protect humanity from threats that normal humans could never understand. Jake looked at his crew, seeing the changes that had already begun in all of them. They were no longer entirely human, but they had gained abilities that could help defend their species from dangers beyond imagination. What about Earth? What about our families? Earth will be safe, Collins assured him. The Vex High threat is ended, but there are other dangers in the galaxy, other species that see humanity as a threat to be eliminated. The Defiance will be humanity's guardian, watching from the shadows and striking before enemies can reach human worlds. Jake made his decision. We stay. Humanity needs protectors who can fight on their level. As the Defiance began to move away from the debris of the Vex High fleet, Jake realized that they had become something new. They were no longer fully human, but they were still fighting for humanity's survival. The lost Dreadnought had indeed altered history, transforming a small exploration crew into the guardians of human civilization. In the distance, Earth continued to orbit its sun, unaware that its children had become something more than human. In order to keep it safe, the secret war that began 2 centuries ago would continue, fought by those who had sacrificed their humanity to preserve it for others.